The other night, I was watching my cousin go down one of those internet rabbit holes. He'd been quiet for, I don't know, an hour maybe, just scrolling on his phone. And then suddenly he looks up. His eyes are just wide. He goes, I figured it out. And he's not joking. He turns the phone around and starts explaining with this really intense energy how two completely different news events, like from different continents and a corporate merger, were all connected. His proof, it was this long, rambling forum post, a 2-hour video from some guy with a pseudonym and a screenshot of what he swore was a leaked internal memo. To him, this was it, the full picture, the thing they didn't want you to know. So I was curious, I just asked a simple question. I said, how do you know that memo is real? And the change was instant. That excitement, it vanished. He got defensive, almost angry. He said, you're just not listening. It's all right there. But it wasn't. There was a pre-built story that he'd found, one that just felt right. The so-called proof was just decoration. And the idea that his whole elaborate theory could be wrong, that it was built on nothing, that was way more uncomfortable for him than the theory itself. And it really made me realize finding the truth isn't what most people are actually doing. They're looking for a story that fits.
That experience, that's it right there. That's the core of what we're talking about in this deep dive. It's not just about spotting a lie.
No, it was so much deeper.
It's about unpacking the psychological, the systemic structures that make genuine understanding so difficult right now. We're trying to get at why finding that story that fits is often so much more appealing than, digging for raw, verified facts.
And the stakes are huge. I mean, we're all swimming in this deliberate complexity, this information overload.
Right, and it's not clarifying anything. It's a smokescreen. It's designed to exhaust your critical thinking.
Exactly. The scarcity isn't information, it's genuine insight.
Mm-hmm.
And in that environment, your attention is the prize.
It's the ultimate prize. And a sensational story built on emotion will always outcompete the straight, unvarnished facts.
Okay, so let's unpack the psychological part first.
Good.
Because it feels like the foundation of this whole problem is, well, it's us. It's our own brains.
It is. We are fundamentally wired to be pattern-seeking creatures.
A survival mechanism originally.
Absolutely. A crucial one. Connecting the rustle in the grass to a potential predator that kept our ancestors alive. But today, in the modern world, that same instinct makes us, it makes us easy marks for conclusions that leap way beyond the actual evidence.
They're just so eager for that satisfying click of connection.
We are, and we accept narratives based on inference rather than solid fact.
Mm-hmm.
We're so good at connecting the dots that we start connecting dots that aren't even there. We're making these baseless deductions.
And that's where it gets dangerous.
That is exactly where the danger starts. You take one small, maybe verifiable claim, say, 2 people met for coffee, and then you just stack layer after layer of assumption on top.
They must have been discussing X, which means Y is happening.
Which proves Z, exactly. And you end up with these elaborate theories that sound incredibly coherent, but they are completely detached from objective reality. These deductions become dangerous weapons when they're not ruthlessly anchored to solid, verifiable facts.
But hold on, if we're dealing with genuinely complex things like politics or global markets, don't we have to make some inferences to even understand them? How do you balance that cognitive leap with the demand for hard evidence?
That's a necessary tension. It really is. The key difference is acknowledging the boundary between a fact and an inference. The story of Frank, the retired teacher, it really shows what happens when that boundary just dissolves.
Right.
David's father, Frank, a very smart guy, but he would spend hours connecting the dots online, building these massive global conspiracy theories. He wasn't collecting facts. He was collecting validation for a narrative he'd already chosen.
And the really tragic part is that when his own son, David, would show him a verifiable, source-checked fact that contradicted the theory, he would just dismiss it.
He'd label it part of the official story. His confirmation bias created this psychological closed loop. The goal was never to refine his understanding.
It was to protect the feeling of being in the know.
Exactly. He wanted the theory to be true because it gave him a simple, hidden answer for a very complex, chaotic world. And the cost of that closed loop. It wasn't just confusion, it was alienation. His commitment to the theory severed his connection to reality, and tragically, it strained his relationship with his own son.
That's just a heartbreaking cost.
Yeah.
It shows that sometimes the theory itself feels more valuable than the truth, because the truth might force you to change your whole worldview, and that's incredibly uncomfortable.
It is. So the defense against this, it isn't blanket cynicism, it's intellectual rigor. It's about maintaining a ruthless demand for hard evidence and being honest about the limits of what is truly known. We have to acknowledge when we're running on an assumption versus a fact.
So if our pattern-finding brain is the internal trap, the second big issue is the external manipulation, the allure of the stories themselves. We love a good story that offers easy answers.
This is the blurring of reality. Storytelling is essential. I mean, it's human, but when the line between a compelling story and hard reality is deliberately blurred,
Especially by people trying to manipulate us.
right, it fundamentally warps our perception of the world. And this blurring isn't an accident. It's often engineered through what we call biased proof.
Bias proof. That's one of the most dangerous tools, isn't it? Because it sort of wraps itself in the language of objectivity.
It does. The information isn't completely made up, but it's twisted. It's cherry-picked, framed, and selectively presented to push a specific agenda. Convenient facts are magnified, and the inconvenient ones
Get buried or dismissed.
entirely.
The story of Sarah, the corporate analyst, is like a textbook example of this, using true bits of information to create a totally false reality.
It really is. So Sarah's friend was putting together an environmental impact report for a new product. The overall data was, well, it was bad. Significantly negative on 3 major environmental metrics.
On it.
But the product did show a marginal improvement in one small, highly technical metric related to solvent use.
So the firm didn't lie. They didn't invent data.
No. They simply released a press report that featured only that one positive metric, highlighted in bold font. Big celebratory headline about their commitment to sustainability.
And the 3 significantly worse metrics, where do they go?
Buried deep. Page 47 of a technical supplemental document that they knew no journalist or analyst would ever have the time or incentive to read.
So the manipulation is the cost of verification.
Precisely. They technically released all the data, but they designed the flow of information to make sure only the biased narrative would ever see the light of day. And that is what's so corrosive. It uses real data as camouflage.
And Sarah's trust in her own firm just evaporates.
Completely eroded, because the appearance of truth was prioritized over the substance of truth. And that erosion becomes total when an emotional, sensational story just bulldozes as raw evidence, which is what we saw with Antoine in his family restaurant in Paris.
Oh, that story is brutal.
Antoine ran a great local spot, a pillar of his neighborhood. Then a new resident posts this vague but very emotionally charged social media message.
Accusing him of being rude.
Aggressively rude to a foreign tourist. The post got immediate algorithmic traction because it was sensational. It played into biases.
It went viral.
Like wildfire, hundreds of comments, people deducing motives, saying they'd always felt a weird vibe there. The emotional narrative was just so strong. But Antoine fought back. He had security footage.
The raw, objective reality.
The raw reality. It showed him being calm and professional while the tourist was clearly belligerent and intoxicated. He posted the footage. The unadulterated facts.
But it was too late.
Way too late. The sensational lie had already become common knowledge. The emotional story was embedded. The security footage, the actual fact, was just an inconvenient detail. Or worse, people dismissed it as a cover-up. The business was destroyed. Not by a lie, but by a story that was just more compelling than the facts.
Wow, so this is the world we're in. Facts can't compete with the sticky, emotional resonance of noise. So what do? How do we equip ourselves?
This environment demands intellectual self-defense. It just does. You have to actively sharpen your own critical edge.
It sounds exhausting.
It can be, but it means you have to start engaging with every piece of information like a detective, not just a passive consumer. This isn't about being a knee-jerk contrarian.
No.
It's about having a functional intellectual toolkit, and there are 3 active questions we need to have constantly running in the background.
Okay, what's the first?
The first, and maybe the most critical, is the motive test. Who is behind this? What is their real agenda? You have to ask, is the driver profit? Political gain? Simple validation? Clicks and attention? If you can understand the self-interest, you can predict where the data is likely to be twisted.
Assume self-interest until proven otherwise.
You have to.
And the second question?
The most basic one, and the one that gets skipped so often, what is the actual verifiable evidence being offered? Is it solid? Is it source-checked? Is it raw data or a third-hand interpretation of a screenshot? You have to ruthlessly look for the holes. If the foundation is sand, the whole thing means nothing.
Okay, and the third, this one sounds like the hardest.
It is the most demanding because it requires you to step outside your comfort zone. You have to ask, are there other equally valid ways to look at this data? And specifically, what are they not telling me? What inconvenient facts are they strategically omitting to keep their story neat and tidy?
And that last one, looking for the inconvenient facts. That requires something pretty difficult for the human ego.
It requires intellectual humility.
The guts to be proven wrong.
Exactly. It means accepting that your understanding is never complete and that your narrative, no matter how satisfying it feels, might be based on assumptions that are about to crumble. These are not innate traits. These are skills you forge through conscious effort.
By daring to engage with perspectives that challenge your own.
As long as those other perspectives also adhere to a factual baseline. We have to insist that any honest debate, any meaningful decision, starts from a shared foundation of accurately reported information, not competing, unverified, emotionally satisfying claims.
We really are at a dangerous crossroads. The currents of these sophisticated self-serving narratives are so strong, it feels like they're trying to pull us all further away from any kind of shared reality.
And chasing down raw facts, it requires immense patience, persistence. It demands the guts to confront uncomfortable truths, truths that might just invalidate the very theories we've emotionally invested in. The commitment has to be to integrity.
Providing the full context.
Nailing down every detail and fairly presenting every fact-based angle available.
So in this environment, where the noise is just deafening and these narratives threaten to consume our ability to see clearly,
the conscious, relentless choice to seek and uphold the unvarnished facts becomes, well, it becomes a necessary act of defiance.
a necessary act of defiance.
It's the only way. It's the only way to plant your feet firmly on the ground of what you can actually verify for yourself.